Some nights in space aren't silent, they're waiting. A visitor from a forgotten star system is racing toward our sun, and every major telescope on Earth is locked on it. It's not a normal comet. It's not behaving like anything we've ever seen before. Its light is wrong. Its composition is wrong. Even its movement defies our models. And now, it's about to vanish behind the sun's glare forever. Before it disappears, we have one last chance to understand it, or realize we never could. Not all cosmic visitors arrive with warning. Some appear as faint signals hidden inside forgotten data, errors no one expected to notice. And when we finally do, they're already too close to ignore. In early 2025, astronomers began tracking an unusual object moving rapidly into the inner solar system. At first, it looked insignificant, just another tiny point of light in a sky full of them. But something about it didn't add up. Its trajectory was wrong, its speed was extreme, and its brightness was increasing far sooner than it should have. They named it 3I Atlas, the third interstellar object ever confirmed to pass through our solar system, only the third in human history. Before it, there was Oumuamua in 2017, the strange, elongated object that accelerated without visible propulsion and refused to behave like a normal comet. It left scientists divided, uncertain, and uncomfortable with their own models of physics. Then came 2I Borisov in 2019, a much more familiar visitor, a comet that behaved almost exactly as expected, except for one thing: it wasn't born here. But 3I Atlas did not belong to either category, and that's where the real mystery began. What made this even more unsettling was the fact that Atlas didn't actually see it first. Weeks after the official discovery announcement on July 1st, 2025, scientists reviewing older data made an unexpected find. The object had already been observed on May 7th, 2025, by NASA's TESS satellite, which was scanning the sky for distant exoplanets. Back then, 3I Atlas was still located beyond the orbit of Jupiter, and yet, it was already glowing. That shouldn't happen. Normally, comets only begin to glow when they move closer to the sun and start heating up. Their frozen surfaces sublimate. Ice turns directly into gas, forming the bright cloud known as a coma. But at that distance, it's far too cold. Comets are usually dark, inert, nearly invisible. But 3I Atlas wasn't. It was bright, and getting brighter, almost as if something inside it had already awakened. Then came the calculation that confirmed it wasn't just strange. It was foreign. The object was traveling on a hyperbolic trajectory, meaning it was not bound by the sun's gravity. It wasn't orbiting our star. It was passing through, a cosmic traveler. To understand how fast that is, compare it to Voyager. When NASA launched Voyager toward Jupiter, it took nearly 2 years to reach its orbit. 3I Atlas traveled similar distances in a fraction of that time. By September 2025, it had already passed Mars. By October 29th, it would make its closest approach to the Sun. And by the following spring, it would be back near Jupiter's orbit again, leaving our system forever. Far too fast for gravity to capture. Far too fast for coincidence. Then the data started revealing something even stranger. As more telescopes turned their focus toward the object, including Hubble, TESS, and the James Webb Space Telescope, astronomers made a shocking discovery about its composition. The glowing cloud around it, its coma, was made mostly of carbon dioxide, not water. In normal comets, water ice dominates. It's the main driver of activity as they approach the sun. But in the case of 3I Atlas, the ratio of carbon dioxide to water was measured at nearly 16:1, 16 times more CO2 than expected. This wasn't just unusual, it was unprecedented. Worse, The CO2 cloud around it was absolutely massive. Observations suggested the coma extended up to 300,000 kilometers wide, almost half the diameter of the Sun. Yet the object at its center might only be around 40 to 46 kilometers across. A relatively small core, surrounded by a vast expanding alien envelope. This suggested that 3I Atlas didn't form in a solar system like ours at all. It came from a place with completely different chemistry, different temperature conditions, different stellar history. It was, in every sense, alien. And then, the tail pointed the wrong way. A comet's tail should always point away from the Sun, pushed outward by solar wind, a constant stream of charged particles flowing from the Sun into space. It's a basic law of comet physics. But in the case of 3I Atlas, multiple observations suggested that part of its tail was forming toward the Sun, against the solar wind. It was like seeing smoke flow into a fire instead of away from it. Scientists rechecked their data. They recalibrated their instruments. They ruled out visual artifacts. But the anomaly remained. Something about the interaction between 3I Atlas and solar radiation didn't make sense. And then came one of the most unsettling discoveries of all. Using the Very Large Telescope, VLT, in Chile, astronomers detected nickel metal in the object's coma, but no iron. This troubled scientists deeply because in nature, nickel and iron are almost always found together. They're forged together in dying stars, ejected through supernova explosions, and scattered across galaxies. Asteroids, moons, and planets contain both. The only situation where nickel appears without iron is when humans deliberately separate them through industrial processes. So how did it happen here? How did an object traveling between stars carry purified nickel in its surrounding gas, but no detectable iron? No confirmed natural explanation exists. And that's when the speculation truly began to spread. Some scientists, more cautious than others, suggested extreme possibilities, not as conclusions, but as hypotheses that couldn't yet be ruled out. What if 3I Atlas wasn't just a comet? What if it was an artificial object, a fragment of technology from another civilization, a long-dead probe drifting between star systems, a massive structure venting gases as part of some unknown process? Others proposed an even more radical idea. What if it was alive? A form of cosmic organism feeding on interstellar material as it traveled, releasing carbon dioxide as a metabolic byproduct, just as life on Earth exhales CO2. No one could prove these ideas, but for the first time, no one could completely dismiss them either. Time, however, was not on our side. By late October, 3I Atlas would disappear from Earth's view as it passed behind the Sun. Before that happened, the European Space Agency planned a final series of observations using Mars Express and ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter as it passed within 28 million kilometers of Mars. Not close enough for fine detail, but close enough to possibly capture its shape. Even a silhouette would be revolutionary. But there was still one last opportunity on the horizon. In March 2026, as 3I Atlas leaves the inner solar system, it will pass near Jupiter again, at a distance of about 53 million kilometers. And orbiting Jupiter right now is NASA's Juno spacecraft. Originally, Juno was scheduled to end its mission by diving into Jupiter's atmosphere, sacrificing itself for science. But some scientists are now considering another possibility. What if, instead of destroying it, they redirect it? What if Juno became humanity's final messenger, a machine built around Earth, intercepting a visitor from another star? Even from a distance, the data it could collect might change astronomy forever. But after that, 3I Atlas will be gone. It will vanish back into the darkness between stars, where no human probe can follow, where its origins may forever remain unknown, but its message will remain, whether it was a rare and exotic comet or something far more incredible. It reminded us of one undeniable truth. We do not yet understand the universe, and sometimes, when the universe sends us a visitor, it's not to give us answers. It's to make sure we keep asking questions. It began with a signal no one was meant to notice, an echo hidden in the raw data of the James Webb Telescope, a rhythm too perfect to be cosmic noise, too intentional to be coincidence. Something out there wasn't just passing by, it was watching. As astronomers tried to explain the impossible, the data only grew darker, stranger, and more precise. This wasn't a comet, it wasn't a rock, it was something built, and the moment we turned our telescopes toward it, it responded. It began as a whisper, an image buried deep inside the raw, unprocessed data of the James Webb Space Telescope. At first, it looked like a glitch, a meaningless rhythm hidden in a spectrographic reading, but the pattern was too precise, too consistent, too deliberate. It wasn't a cosmic dust flare, nor the thermal signature of a dying star, and it definitely wasn't a comet. This was something else, something cold, calculated, and watching. The object, officially labeled 3I Atlas, had already gained notoriety for breaking the rules of physics. From the moment it was first detected, scientists expected another interstellar visitor like Oumuamua or Borisov, strange, fast, and fleeting. But Atlas behaved differently. It followed no known script. It refused to be classified. And soon it began to reveal characteristics that defied everything astronomers thought they understood about natural objects. When Atlas first entered the solar system, researchers thought it might be a dry comet, rare but possible. Yet as it approached the sun, something eerie became obvious. It expelled only carbon dioxide, and in massive quantities. No water vapor, no carbon monoxide. Nothing that a comet should release. Instead, its chemical signature was unlike anything ever recorded. NASA pointed the infrared spectrometer aboard the Spherex observatory toward it, searching for the usual gases. But again, the readings came back impossible. CO2 and nothing else. What kind of object emits only carbon dioxide? The answer, none that we know of. Public interest exploded, but NASA stayed quiet. And in the silence, something unusual was happening behind closed doors. The James Webb Space Telescope, reserved for exoplanets, galaxies, cosmic birthplaces, was secretly assigned to observe Atlas. No images were released, no statements, just a leak. A report describing what Webb had supposedly seen. The object had no natural coma, but instead a perfectly symmetrical halo of CO2 stretching hundreds of thousands of kilometers. Even stranger, the halo glowed, not from reflected sunlight, but from a light source inside the object. According to the leaked spectrogram, the emissions resembled engineered photonic systems, the kind used in communication arrays or data transmitters. The wavelengths weren't random. They pulsed in repeating sequences, structured like a cosmic Morse code. Atlas also wasn't small. It measured 46 kilometers in diameter, far too large to statistically appear as a random interstellar object. For something of that size to enter our solar system from deep space would mean one of two things. Either we misunderstand the universe at a fundamental level, or the object did not arrive by chance. But the most disturbing discovery wasn't its composition or size. It was its trajectory. Unlike Oumuamua's chaotic slingshot path, Atlas entered the solar system in perfect alignment with the orbital plane of the planets, a path with a 1 in 500 natural probability. Avi Loeb, the controversial astrophysicist who claimed Oumuamua could be artificial, described Atlas's trajectory as technologically suggestive. It wasn't just passing through, it was navigating. And then came the origin. Atlas appeared to trace back to the Sagittarius constellation, the same patch of sky where the legendary WOW signal, the strongest potential extraterrestrial transmission ever recorded, originated in 1977. The odds were unsettling. A new theory emerged, not from science fiction, but from engineering logic. Atlas might be a hollowed asteroid retrofitted with machinery, using CO2 sublimation as camouflage to appear. Natural scientists on Earth had proposed the concept for decades. Asteroid starships protected by thick rock to withstand cosmic radiation. If humanity had thought of it, why couldn't someone else? The leaked Webb data deepened the mystery. The light emissions coming from Atlas weren't stable. They flickered in sequences matching prime numbers, a method SETI scientists have long suggested would be a universal language for intelligent communication. Even more chilling, between each pulse was a long, deliberate silence, almost as if the object were waiting for something or someone. When the leak became public, NASA locked down all data. Observatories were instructed to stop publishing updates. The media moved on, but inside classified channels, something stirred. Within 48 hours, the U.S. military redirected satellites toward Atlas's projected path, and the secretive X-37B spaceplane was launched into orbit on an unannounced mission. Internal documents labeled Atlas as a technological unknown of extraterrestrial origin. Outside the official narrative, another theory took shape. A group of fringe astrobiologists suggested Atlas might not just be a machine, but a living system, a hybrid organism combining biological and mechanical components, capable of self-repair, adaptation, and decision-making across millennia. If true, Atlas didn't just arrive here, it chose here. Then the timing anomalies began. The pulses, the trajectory shifts, the orbital alignments, all formed a pattern. Independent astronomers predicted that in 9 months, Atlas would reach a position that required either an enormous gravitational assist or an internal propulsion maneuver. The structure of the emissions suggested phases. Some believed we were entering phase 3 of a 5-phase cycle, ending when Atlas aligned between Mars and Earth. As if in response, the Deep Space Network began experiencing disruptions. Probes like New Horizons and Voyager 2 went silent in sync with Webb observations. Radio astronomers detected electromagnetic disturbances centered around Atlas's tracking windows. It was almost as if the object knew it was being observed and was interfering. Tracking data then revealed something no natural object should do: course corrections. Precise angular deviations toward specific stars, including the Lytton system, home to a potentially habitable exoplanet. This suggested intention, planning, and perhaps a route traveled before. The final leak was the most disturbing. When Webb captured its last infrared spectrogram of Atlas, a scientist plotted the bursts in polar coordinates and overlaid star maps from the Gaia spacecraft. The emissions traced a star map, not of the Milky Way, but of the Triangulum Galaxy, 2.7 million light-years away. The last line of the map curved back toward Earth, forming a perfect loop. This wasn't a traveler, it was a return. Inside NASA, a countdown embedded in the IR pulses was decoded, 283 Earth days remaining. But the message didn't come from us. It came from Atlas. If this object has crossed galaxies and epochs to reach our solar system, then one truth becomes impossible to ignore. James Webb didn't discover it. It discovered us. And now, as the countdown continues, one question hangs above all others. What happens when it reaches 0? So now the real question isn't what 3i Atlas is, but what it's coming here to do. Every signal, every maneuver, every shift in its behavior points to one truth. It isn't drifting, it's choosing. And whatever waits at the end of this countdown is already on its way. If this object crossed galaxies to reach us, then James Webb didn't discover it. It discovered us. If you want to keep following this mystery, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Cosmic Files.